It seems that a lot of people don't understand the whole whistling diesel in the Montana business and how that works. And I don't claim to be an expert, nor am I a lawyer, or am I giving legal advice here. I guess I should point that out because there's a lot of stupid people in the world that would think Meeker Extreme's giving legal advice. I'm not. However, I don't believe Whistling Diesel did anything wrong. Now, I'm not a fan of his channel. Some of it's interesting. I think he's corny, but I think he's playing a character. And, it's just not my cup of tea for most of his videos, although I've seen some where I laugh and I thought it was pretty good and pretty good content, But that goes with a lot of channels. You might like some of the stuff, you might not like other stuff. It doesn't mean you're going to like every single thing they put out, nor should you, because you're probably leg humping them if you do like every single thing. So, Montana businesses or corporations, whether it's an LLC or a corporation, first off, what you do is you get a Montana LLC or corporation. It can be either or, benefits and negative to each of those business entities. Well, I don't know how he had it set up, so let's just assume he has a corporation set up in Montana. The corporation can own anything. He could have his house in there. He could have other assets in there, which could be good and bad, and once again, depending what you're trying to do and what you're trying to accomplish. But in this instance, it was a Ferrari, a very expensive Ferrari. There's nothing wrong with a business owning an asset. So the business owns the Ferrari. There's no denial on that. It had Montana tags. We all know people do this. It does occur more with wealthy people, but it also might occur with normal folk also for a variety of reasons. It's a loophole. It's a legal loophole. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want it changed, then you gotta go to Montana, get it changed, or how various states interact with each other. Because if you start coming down really hard on how Montana does things, then they could come really hard down on how other states handle things and whether they recognize it or don't recognize it. And if we become a country where, well, I'm not going to recognize that over here or this over there, then it's going to be really hard to do business throughout the country. So, it is legal to have a business in Montana. It's legal for that business entity to own an asset. Well, you're going to say, but this has to do with him registering it in Tennessee and not paying Tennessee's sales tax. Okay, let's assume Whistling Diesel wants to register that vehicle in Tennessee. He legally can't. It's the business's asset, which means the insurance is probably in the business name. The ownership is in the business name. The registration in Montana is in the business name. So how can he legally go to the DMV in Tennessee and register that vehicle? He can't. That would be like me borrowing your vehicle. You're like, Mark, you're down on your luck. I'm going to loan you a vehicle until you get back up on your feet. You're trying to do the right thing. You're trying to help out a buddy, a friend. Could be a stranger, but probably ain't going to happen in a stranger's case, but a buddy. And you let them, here's the keys to my $50,000 car over here. I have multiple vehicles. Use as long as you need and get yourself back on your feet. Because we all know in this society, you do need a vehicle to get to work, to make a living, and to lift yourself up. Unless you live in a major city and can take subways and taxis and bicycle and that to and from work. Well, most Americans live outside of cities. They don't live in cities. So to make a living, you're going to need a vehicle. Your buddy gives you the keys. Insurance is in his name. Registration's in his name to whatever state. We can pick any state. Let's say Ohio. Doesn't matter. It can be Florida. Doesn't matter. You live in Kansas, let's say. And he gives you the key. You take the vehicle. You take it back to Kansas. You're there. You're working. You're getting yourself up out of a bad situation. And then Kansas says, hey, we've noticed that vehicle lives here, because all these states have flock cameras now, unfortunately. This vehicle lives in Kansas, it seems. Well, it's not my vehicle. Well, you're going to have to get it plated. I can't, because, okay, we all know how this works at the DMV. You go to the DMV, they're going to say, well, I need insurance in the title. Well, here's the title. Let's assume you even have this stuff. Here's the title. Well, that's not you. That's somebody named David. Well, yeah, that's my friend. He's letting me borrow. Well, we can't register the vehicle. It's not your property. Yeah, but the state says I have to register it because I'm using the vehicle and the vehicle is here. And let's take this one step further. You even went out of your way and you got insurance on the vehicle in addition to what the actual owner's insurance is, because you want to make sure his assets covered. You are using a different state. Insurance company doesn't give a shit. Insurance company says, here you go. It's going to cost $300 a month to insure that vehicle. But you're getting free use of a vehicle. That's pretty damn cheap. So you do. So you're able to show, well, I got insurance in my name, but they're like, well, but the title's not in your name, so we can't give you a plate. Okay, that's fine, but the state says the vehicle's here and it needs a plate. Yeah, but it's not yours, so we can't issue a plate and tags. You see the issue here? There are a lot of companies out there that do give company cars. Maybe it's a traveling salesman. Maybe they're an executive. Maybe the headquarters is in Vermont. And you work in Denver. You're covering this region. Maybe you're just a sales guy. Maybe that's all it is. The company registers, say, a nice Ford Explorer for you to travel around, to showcase their product, to go to events, shows, what have you, whatever they're telling you to do for your job. It's that company's vehicle in Vermont. It's not your vehicle. You thus cannot register it here in Colorado. They won't allow you to. There's no way around that. So what the state of Tennessee is basically telling Whistle and Diesel is they want him to steal an asset from a company. And by the way, companies and LLCs in Montana don't have to list who the registered agent is. They don't have to list a CEO and all that. So we don't know who that company is and who that the board of directors and the CEO is of that company. Now, it's only speculation that it's actually Whistle and Diesel. Maybe it is, but that still doesn't matter. His company is legally registered in Montana, and he has an asset from the company that is with him at his home in Tennessee. Perfectly legal. From everything I understand, that is 100% legal. He can't steal the asset by trying to register it when he doesn't have a title. He probably doesn't have registration. Insurance is probably under the company, unless he added a policy, on top of that he's just doing. Which I don't even know how complex you can make that as far as going to the insurance company. If I just go to the insurance company and say, I want insurance on this vehicle, it's living at this address in Tennessee, here's the VIN number. They're going to give me insurance on any vehicle. I could go pick a vehicle off the street right now, give them the VIN number, and pay the money, and that vehicle is covered. Now where it would become insurance fraud is because I wouldn't know where that vehicle typically lives, right? But let's say it's my neighbor's vehicle. I know it's next door. I don't know why you would do this, but I can call up an insurance company and get insurance on that vehicle. I can do that. Again, I don't know why you would do that, but you can do that. Insurance companies do not give a damn. So you can have multiple people can be covering the same vehicle. Nowadays with computers and technology, it might flag in the system that, hey, that vehicle's covered over here at Allstate still, but I don't know how complex their systems are with talking. So without getting to the technologies in the background, that I don't know how far they've come to communicate with each other as far as if a vehicle has multiple coverages. I don't know. But what I do know is I can't just go and register my neighbor's vehicle and get a plate when I don't have the title. I don't have a clear title for it, so I can't do that. So what he is doing is not illegal, nor can he legally register that vehicle. Now, I don't have to like Whistle and Diesel, because I know there's people out there, well, I just don't like them. But that doesn't mean facts aren't facts and that he can't do something that the state of Tennessee is trying to tell him to do when it's not his property. In fact, that might go against corporate policy, and the corporation could then sue him. Now, we all know this is probably his corporation. That's probably speculation that we can almost count on, but can't 100%. Disclaimer, not 100%. But it's probably his company. But legitimately, it could be some company, Fortune 500 company, giving somebody, an executive that lives elsewhere, a vehicle to use as part of their salary package. And that vehicle is plated and registered in the state of Vermont, Delaware, Maine, wherever, California. But that person, because you can work from home nowadays with a lot of jobs, not all careers, but in a lot of industry nowadays, you can be an executive anywhere. You can answer phones, answer emails, print stuff, send stuff, Zoom meetings, what have you. So you could be located anywhere in the country, and for that matter, anywhere in the world. And, it is in the realm of possibility, and probably are people out there that have a company asset that is not theirs. It would be like an employee getting a laptop, a $5,000 laptop from their company, which a lot of people have this, and then they go and take it to a pawn store to get money for it. Well, they just stole an asset from the company to pawn for quick cash. Now, their intention might be, I just need the quick money. I'm going to pay it off at the end of the week or end of the month, and I'll have that back. It's a computer that's sitting around in my closet because I have my own shit at home, but they gave me this $5,000 laptop to use. You see where I'm going with this? That employee then could be charged with theft because they went and got money for something that's not theirs, claiming that that's theirs. Whistle and Diesel, if he claimed that Ferrari was actually his vehicle, that could be considered theft if the company wanted to pursue charges against him if this was a normal Fortune 500 company. So I get it. The state of Tennessee wants to collect sales tax. All states want to collect their sales tax. But not all corporations are going to be within your state, nor are their assets going to be within your state. And even with flock cameras showing, hey, this was used in Tennessee, this was used in Texas, this was used over here and there, wherever it had driven, doesn't really matter because he has no ability to take it to the DMV, or whatever Tennessee calls it. I'm assuming they call it Department of Motor Vehicle, but that's kind of a California term, because here in Colorado, for example, it's clerk and recorder, but we still call, most people just call it a DMV. So whatever Tennessee calls it, he can't just go there and have it registered. And I don't know what is so hard to understand with a lot of people behind how this works. Just the fact of who is on that title is all that matters. Let's say he was married. It's his wife's vehicle. He can't just show up to the DMV without his wife to be added to the title, to make any changes to the title. I know, because, when many years ago, I went to the DMV here in Colorado to do something, had my wife's name on it, and they were like, well, you're not her. And after they said that, it made complete sense to me, right? It was like, boom, you're absolutely right. Yeah, because then I could just claim she's my wife. She's my wife. He's my wife. It's a new world we live in. And I could claim anything as mine. So, yeah, you need the person that's on it, which would be the company, and they would have to verify that he is authorized by the company to make those changes. So, but that would be like giving him the vehicle or selling him the vehicle. He can't, there's nothing he can do to legally register that vehicle. And I know I've went around in a circle here a bunch, but I feel like I have to, because a lot of you out there think he can just magically get it registered in his name in Tennessee and pay that sales tax. Why didn't you just pay that sales tax, Cody? Why didn't you pay that sales tax? Even if he wanted to pay the sales tax, he legally cannot. Not his vehicle. So anyways, hopefully this helped you out in understanding, maybe research it a little for yourself, and stop dwelling on what other people do and what companies do, how they handle things. Worry about your own shit. Don't worry about whether somebody pulled one over on Tennessee. Tennessee will be just fucking fine if they don't collect the sales tax. Let's be honest. They really will be. It's not like this guy doesn't buy other assets, own other property, and does other business within his state that he resides. It's not like he doesn't contribute to the economy of Tennessee in many different facets. So, oh my God, Tennessee. Well, so Tennessee wants a double dip on everyone that gets a company car from that might be headquartered in their state and registered in their state just because this happens to be Montana. It's a red flag, where Wyoming's just as easy. But any state where your company is, me as a company here in Colorado could buy a vehicle, have a salesman, and have that vehicle registered here, but the sales guy lives in Minnesota. And he's traveling around the East Coast. That's his job. But the plate in the registration is Colorado. I'm not obviously doing it to skirt any tax because, I'm paying Colorado tax. But Minnesota might see it differently. They might say, hey, you are skirting our tax. But I have no way of registering it there. My employee has no way of registering it there. It's a company vehicle. So anyways, think about this stuff before you make stupid ass posts making yourself look fucking dumb. I might not like the guy 100%, but he seems like he's in the right here. This is how business works. And if you don't like it, then you got to go to your lawmakers and have things changed. But this is how it's always worked. And I don't know how you change it so it doesn't become confusing, where then you can't do business across state lines because it's just confusing. Because if one state starts punishing like another state, then that state might start punishing that state. And it just becomes a spiral effect. And we can't drive vehicles that are plated here or over there because of this or that. That's why, like with tint on my windows, and I've heard of states doing this, giving a ticket, if California's bad with shit like this, even though you don't reside there, because they know you'll just pay the ticket. But legally, it doesn't matter, because what is legal here might not be legal over there, but yet states have reciprocatory laws, and that lets us all travel and have commerce and this and that. There's bumper heights. Texas might have jacked up pickup trucks. I know back in the day, or somewhere in the South, and in other states, like, no, it has to be this high. And DOT even has requirements that it's this high. But I'm traveling through your state, so it doesn't really matter, what your law is. My law says this. I comply with my law. Tough shit for you guys, I'm just passing through. So there's a lot of that too, where states are just a little bit too greedy sometimes. Anyways, y'all take care, stay well, stay safe, and have a coffee.